What is going on, everyone? It is David Palmer, Leo King, and this is your weekend astrology forecast for the weekend of January 21st through the 22nd, 2023. Of course, the Chinese New Year and this new moon in Aquarius. Hope everybody's doing wonderful out there. Of course, make sure that you are a subscriber to highvibe.tv to get all of the exclusive content. 97% of all my content is on highvibe.tv. All the weekly shows, of course, deep astrology, and so much more. We, of course, put clips up on YouTube so you can see what we're doing on HighVibe. You can go to the links down below, or, of course, go to the app stores and type in HighVibe TV or highvibe.tv on the web. Well, I hope everybody's doing wonderful out there. It is a new moon in Aquarius, and so this one, of course, rather odd, like Aquarius should be. New moon happening in Aquarius at 1 degree. A lot has happened here at this 0 and 1 degree of Aquarius. We had Jupiter and Saturn December 21st of 2020. We had Mars, Saturn at the beginning of 2021. And then we had Mars, Venus at the beginning of 2022. And here we are with a new moon on 2023. So literally 2020, 2021, 2022, and now 2023 all been big aspects, conjunction points at this spot. And of course, we all know that Pluto is going to ingress into Aquarius to come to the beginning of Aquarius here, March 23rd of 2023. So this new moon is looking at so many aspects of our life, but really if you take from 2020 to now in so many different ways, we are, of course, seeing all the planets that are finally going to come direct, because everything's direct except Uranus, which is stationed retrograde on this new moon, which Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. So to see Uranus stopped here on this new moon is a little odd, because it's like we are waiting for something to finally move the wheel forward in our life. Of course, Aquarius is the sign of innovation. It is the sign of where's the boundary line and the responsibility of anarchy all the way to following the crowd. And we have to find a fine line there. Venus is in Aquarius with Saturn, and they are actually making their conjunction this weekend during this new moon, and with Uranus on the 22nd, which is stationing direct at 14 degrees and about 58 minutes of Taurus. And remember, the North Node is in Taurus, and now it's finally moved to the first decan of Taurus. This is Taurus at its triplicity. So we are really having to focus on this Venus a lot, the dispositor of this North Node with this new moon. And with all the planets that are finally turning direct, this new moon in Aquarius ready to move into the future, a nice sextile to Jupiter that's in Aries at about 4 degrees that's building. We're really looking at our future. We're ready for things to turn on. But the oddity, of course, is it is Aquarius, and Saturn's here still. And with Saturn being the ruler of Aquarius, Uranus being the other modern ruler of Aquarius, and it being stationed retrograde during this new moon, and with Venus, the dispositor of the North Node, being on top of Saturn in conjunction, you know, it's one of those new moons where it's like we're there, but we're not there yet. And I feel like the energy that we should bring into this new moon is one of understanding the future and what we can see. This is an important moment where that's there. But the stuff in the present, the stuff in the moment, the adjustments we're still making with Mercury that, of course, just came out of its retrograde and went stationary direct this week, of course, in Capricorn, and knowing that it's been in quincunx to Mars, which went retrograde about a week and a half ago. Without Mars out of retrograde in Gemini, this quincunx of Mercury and Mars has been a long one, and that can be agitation, and especially with the patience and wanting to run really fast into things. But, of course, Mercury in Capricorn here saying, hey, we got to figure this out. And if you look at the transits of 2020, especially when we had the Saturn, Pluto, Sun, Mercury, Ceres conjunction of January 12th of 2020, you know, this is where also the South Node was. It was at 8 degrees of Capricorn. We had Jupiter at 9 degrees of Capricorn. So this Mercury retrograde went over all the big transits. Remember, Mercury went retrograde on top of Venus about, 4 weeks ago? So you have to remember that at 24 degrees, so Mercury literally covered everything that we've seen over the last 3 years. And now the new moon is covering all the big transits the last 3 years. And we've been seeing Saturn and Uranus that have been in square, and they're still in square, not exact, of course. So this is definitely a moment where there's been a lot of where we're coming to a realization of, wow, this is where we're at. And this new moon is, okay, The universe has done so many things. I never believed I'd be here, or I never thought I'd be here, or this is kind of crazy how we all ended up here. But that's a beautiful moment is that if we really pay attention right now, the facts are pretty clear of why. The facts are pretty clear of how. But now this is a responsible moment in our lives to better ourselves as best as we can and to also strategize as best as we can. Pluto, of course, at 28 degrees of Capricorn, Saturn at 24 degrees here. And we're getting ready for both of those planets to finally come out of their shadow. But not yet. That's the weird part about this new moon. It's like a lot has happened to get us to this new moon that's finally moving forward. But at the same time, something fully hasn't gone there yet. So it's like being in between worlds. And I look at what February is bringing for us, which is in between worlds with Saturn finishing in Aquarius and Pluto finishing in Capricorn to both ingress into those new signs. This is that moment where we have to look at this new moon and go, what challenges are there? Well, we have to just keep going deeper with Pluto that is conjunct this new moon. And we have to really go, okay, there's layers and layers and layers to this. And they go deeper than we thought. And they go deeper into understanding our destiny and where that's going. And that's really what this is about, because this is a new moon at 1 degree of Aquarius with Pluto at 28 and almost a half degree of Capricorn. And so that midpoint spot is the end of Capricorn there. And that's the shift. That's the shift over we're all feeling. We're moving from a Capricorn world to an Aquarian world over this next couple months. And so we're trying to understand what that's going to look like in our lives, but we can't rush things. We got to when we find something we like or that we're stimulated with or that we're interested in, this is a moment for us to strategize. Are there other options? Is there other ways for us to figure out how it could be the best for us? And so I think that this is a new moon to be not allowing yourself to go get stuck in a place where you're like, it's never going to happen or things are never going to change, because things are changing and things have been changing. Especially remember back at the end of September, we had 6 planets retrograde. So the fact that this weekend Uranus stations direct, this has been your life has gone from one end to the other end of a world that you never dreamed of already. Imagine where it's going to go next. And if you keep that vision in mind and you understand with Saturn and Venus in conjunction, this is where we can really take our relationships, our values, our projects, and the things that we really want to see move forward into our lives, and really take the appreciation and take a responsibility to, find a way to make us feel how things can break apart more and move. But we are with Uranus stationing direct, which is definitely popping this Aquarius energy that we're going to see right after this new moon happens on Saturday. So Sunday, there's going to be definitely like a whoa. I'm feeling more after this, though, when finally the moon leaves Aquarius and we get to Monday and we start to see it crescent its way and wax its way into Pisces here. We'll actually start to feel, okay, this is moving really fast. With Mercury, that will finally come off its quincunx to Mars that has been for almost 2 weeks. So just looking at everything right now, especially, just use this to understand how far you've come, how radical it has been to get here. The world at large, too, and how different it's changed. We've all changed. And this is a moment for us to really have a satellite view and disconnect from any of those feelings that don't make us feel good about how we're not at where we exactly want to be. Because when you take that satellite picture and you look at your life, you'll realize how far you actually have changed and come. And when you really appreciate that with Venus and Saturn and with Uranus stationing direct, it's about appreciation to move us forward. It's about appreciation to raise us higher. It's about understanding what you've been building. It's about understanding that it's about creation right now in life. It's not about instant returns. It's not about quick, fast, easy. It's about building things that are precious and that are strong and long-lasting. And even maybe life long-lasting. We'll never get North Node, Uranus, and Taurus ever again. And so we need to remember on this new moon, and even though, this is also the reminder that we're in between eclipses, because it's starting to square the nodes, this new moon, that, this is a place where we're the farthest away from, right, an eclipse. But at the same time, this is one of the most interesting moons that are one of the closest to Earth new moons that we're having. So we have to remember that Mars is also at the same time really high up in declination at 24 degrees. And we also have the moon that's coming through this point too, which is actually out of bounds. So this is a place where you don't want to take your emotions and try and act on emotions too quick, too fast, and especially taking them out of the boundary lines of what actually can fit in. And Aquarius wants to be different. It wants to be odd. It wants to be weird, and that's great. But at the same time, there still are boundaries. And Venus is meeting those boundaries with Saturn. We're in a sign of responsibility still. Aquarius might be the rebel, but there's got to be a purpose, and there's got to be a responsibility with that rebellion. And being innovative takes also at the same time, like we all wish that we're on the side that chose not to take an experiment. We all wish there was accountability. We all wish there was responsibility with those kind of innovation and not forcing it on others at the same time too. So you got to think of it from both ends of the spectrum. You can't have all anarchy, and you can't be just a sheep following things and just expecting innovation to work all the time. And not every science experiment is going to work in your life. And this is the moment where you realize what has worked, what hasn't worked. And instead of looking at what hasn't worked in your own personal life so much, you got to find what is working and double down on those things in the natural form, in the evolutionary aspect that it's happening. This is a very big new moon about evolution and taking the responsibility of the evolution in an understanding in a conscious way. So, pretty big stuff going on. All the planets will be direct after this weekend, this new moon, when we finally hit Sunday. And it's on like Donkey Kong, but it's not going to be as easy as usual. It's not going to be the normal, let's go into the full all planets direct. There is something about, with Mars still being in shadow for a long time and still has to square Neptune and Pisces, with Neptune still in shadow, with Pluto still in shadow, with Saturn still in shadow, with Mercury still in shadow. By the time things finally get out of shadow and get moving, that's one of the hard parts of starting a new year with Mars retrograde is, and let's not forget about the comet, right? That is going to be getting its closest to Earth here by February 1st and be passing between Earth and Mars. And so this Mars retrograde and Mars about to conjunct Aldebaran again. This is a time for us to really be very smart about our actions and to make sure that we're on the right side of things and on the side of truth and being honest with ourselves and having a better view of things. And the sun is on its way to start trining Mars soon and sextiling Jupiter. So we're going to have much better weeks ahead. But also at the same time, don't forget that we are going into a completely new radical world and to be prepared for that at the same time. The card for this weekend is the Four Swords, which is the card of finding that stability, not being in a place where you feel uncomfortable, being in a place where you can find comfort with laying your thoughts to rest. It's also a place of a sovereign spiritual place of rest, where we feel safe. It's also where the knight understands he may become laid to rest if he goes to battle, and he knows where that is. And so there's a place where we all have to find that place where no matter what happens to us in our life and what happens to us now or in the future, that we know where that place is where we have where we can lay our mind to rest and where we can find our security. It's a card that deals with a stability of mind and emotion in a weird way, but it also is a card where we're not so all over the place, right? It's a card where we really start to bring things in and we really start to hone our energy in and really put it in a good space. The confirmation card that I did get here for it is the Four of Wands in reverse, so 2 fours. And it's interesting because the Four of Wands is the celebration card, and I feel like that's what's interesting is maybe people are just not so excited about the way that this is a big, beautiful honing in process and a very beautiful moment for us to really find and secure the understanding. And it's hard in Aquarius and with Uranus stationing direct. It's hard even with Uranus and Taurus in a very unstable world, but there's still stability. Wherever you can find that, that's the celebration to have. It's not a pop the champagne moment and go out and have the craziest time right now. Those celebration energies are much more in our creation of our life, much more in our future, and the path that's already on the future, that we're already on in the present, that we're actually walking down and making it better and laying those stones down. And that's the most beautiful part. So if you're wanting to have that too instant gratification, desired celebration about things, you got to look at it that it's actually happening in a much more stronger, a much more honed in, a much more together life than one that's too edgy or too radical. This is not a time to go for the edge. This is not a time to go dip yourself into the crazy end of the deep end of the pool. You know, this is not a time to go get screwed and fucked up and all. This is not that time. This is a time to understand your mission and how beautiful it is, the connection, the people, and how your energy affects others. I want to remind people of that with Aquarius, with especially Venus and Saturn being here too. How you affect others in your own energy is so important. If you come across and make people feel uncomfortable, or if you're not settled with your own self-worth and value in yourself, with Venus conjunct Saturn and Uranus stationing direct with the North Node in Taurus, you know, it's going to feel like people don't want to be around that energy. So really pay attention to how you deal with your emotions. Really pay attention to how you can disconnect from any of your troubles or any of the things that really are not worth it. And put the best energy out there in yourself, because that resonates with other people. And that's how we don't put our negative energy or bad energy and put that on the collective, and especially our friends, our family, and the people that we love, or even the people that we don't know in our lives that are part of this world together. I appreciate you all so much. Would love to see you on High Vibe TV. Make sure that you join us by getting a 7-day free trial on the website or on our apps. Of course, Roku, Apple TV, your iPhone, and Android on all those app stores, or go to highvibe.tv for the best deals. Truly appreciate you all so much. And of course, I'll see you on High Vibe TV. Adios.